What is up, everybody? It's your favorite tri-weekly podcast focusing on the secondary market, the SnapCast with Andy Michaud and Brad O'Brien. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
I don't know how to pronounce my last name, man. Everyone says something different. Like, I say Michaud. I have a professor that's Michaud. I grew up watching Alfie play goalie for University of Maine, and every announcer said something different for his name.
I don't know who Alfie is.
Alfie Michaud. He was the greatest playoff goalie in University of Maine history. Won a national title. He was a very average goalie, but man, was he good in the playoffs.
All right. Well, I just learned something new about something I didn't know about. I was really happy to catch you off guard with our tri-weekly podcast.
That was good.
Do you know why I said tri-weekly instead of bi-weekly?
Why?
Because every week we try.
Some weeks we try harder than others.
Some weeks, you know what? Some weeks
we go, hey, we can do a podcast. We go, I guess. Other weeks we go, do you want to go eat Chinese food? And we go, yes.
Yes. Like, if I have to choose between one or the other, last week I did not have enough energy to do both. And honestly, I didn't feel like we had enough interesting stuff to talk about. And now we've got a banned and restricted announcement with a little bit of language from Watsy about we're keeping our eye on you.
It's true. They were talking about us, me and you.
Well, they should.
They're gonna ban us. Well, I'll just get suspended, but you're gonna get banned.
I hate to break it to you, Andy, but I think we both know if you get suspended in historic, you've been banned.
It's true. There's no coming back from that.
So, tell me about this banned and restricted announcement.
So, very interesting announcement, and I think we all knew we were going to get here. I'm going to leave the cool stuff for the end. Cool's in quotations. Essentially, no changes in any formats we give a shit about.
Okay.
Also, no changes in standard. See what I did there. But they did say in standard, of course, we did just have worlds. Okay. So a lot of play was happening. You had a lot of stuff on Arena going on to coordinate with worlds. And basically there was all this feedback from the players saying, Alan's Epiphany and Chariot. I can't think of whose Chariot it is. It makes cats. I don't know. We'll call it Chat Chariot. I don't know.
You think it's
but they're saying, there you go. They're saying those should be banned. And Wizards noticed, and they said, hey, we hear you. We're looking at play rates. We're looking at balances. We have all this data from Arena. Like, that's the good thing about Arena. It's the good thing about Standard is we can actually see a very good whatever you call it, both play rates and win-loss statistics from the average player, not just from your pro scene. And they said, you know what? Because Crimson Vow is coming out, we do think that we want to wait and see how that affects things, so we're not going to ban anything.
Technical question, do you have YouTube up right now?
I do.
Do you see us streaming?
Yes, I do. So does Jason Clark and Raiden.
Excellent, because I can't find my my browser, but apparently it's working without me seeing it. So I can't actually type anything into chat, so I want to say hi to our guest in the chat then. And
Brad says hi.
Yes, sir. Look at that, Jason Clark. Welcome back. Yeah, we don't give a shit about standard. And
format we give even less of a shit about, historic.
I want to like historic. I do, because I can play it on my iPad laying in bed for 20 minutes before I fall asleep. But I got so far behind that I had a real hard time the other day logging in and not like being able to play anything with one of the starter decks is just about useless. But that's my own complaint. How badly are they screwing up the format, Andy? What are they talking about in the BNR?
So I mean, it sounds like I don't play historic. I don't play Arena. I agree. I would love to play the format. I think it's when I did, it was a sweet format. Like being able to play Thoughtseize online was great. Well, the easy things is that I think these all make a lot of sense. You have Brainstorm that was suspended. Now it's banned.
Yeah.
I don't know who ever thought putting Brainstorm into a format. I mean, power level in Historic's high, but like,
yeah,
it's not Brainstorm high. Come on. Especially with the combo decks. So that has been banned. Memory Lapse has been suspended. And then Tybalt's Trickery has been banned.
Wow. That's interesting. I thought they had sort of resolved the problems with Trickery, but that is interesting.
Not in Historic, apparently.
I listened to some other folks this week on a different podcast talking about, as a matter of fact, now I recall it was the Goldfish podcast, and they were just saying, honestly, has anybody ever liked when a control deck was strong in the meta?
Control players.
I can't argue with your logic. Your logic is sound. But other than that, I can see why Memory Lapse hit. That is a real feel bad Magic card for anybody that's not casting it.
No, I mean, I'm with you. Like it's very, very good.
As far as the power level, I mean, thinking about how many cards from Modern Horizons that they've just put on there, I think that they really are pushing to get something that looks like the modern format on Arena as soon as possible, I think. Well, and you told me something else that they're doing that makes me think they really are focusing on the Arena format.
Yeah, and this other thing, plus like them adding cards like Brainstorm, which they've got rid of now, Memory Lapse, which they've got rid of now, but like they've been adding a lot of cards that aren't modern legal too, and that's starting to make me think like our modern dreams coming to Arena through Historic is like dying a little bit, just because it's totally different format. The other thing they're doing, which is interesting, which obviously it's something they're allowed to do. It's something that I think is very good for Historic. It scares me a little as someone that doesn't play the format, because it just seems like, oh, look what we can do. And that is their rebalancing cards. They picked 5 cards that came out in Historic, Jumpstart, Remastered, Return to whatever it was.
Yeah.
Shadows over Historic, I don't know.
Rising.
But five of the online only cards, they've taken it and they've effectively changed the card text on them. I didn't really look through it super closely, but things like there's I think it's a Sarkon. There's a Planeswalker in there, but they had a +0 ability. They changed it to +1. There was Darkon or Duretti that had like a minus ability that you could get one of random effects. They've changed the effects or changed how they work. A lot of stuff that's like, okay, you think of a normal online game and like, oh yeah, we do rebalancing all the time. Like that's a normal thing.
That's a normal thing in like a Hearthstone.
Yeah, and even like a Call of Duty, right? Like any online game can do this stuff. Well, where Magic has been a paper game, you can't. The only thing is things like the companion rule they were kind of forced to do. Some Oracle text updates, but like usually that doesn't change how the card works unless we're talking like Lion's Eye Diamond 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Them being able to straight up do that, it's interesting, and it's definitely something that I don't see coming to paper, but it's just another reason why I think they really like their Arena.
They really like it. And I mean, if that's the thing is they have all the information on where people are playing.
So real quick, Jason Clark, guess what they changed? It was kill a creature, draw a card. essentially. But you could kill one of your own creatures over and over and over, and it would cause a draw. So now you can only kill opponent creatures, is what Jason Clark's telling us.
Okay. I mean, sounds like a reasonable fix for a reasonable problem. But again,
imagine if they could have done that with Oko, where you could.
Yeah. Right. If they had been able to change the numbers around on Oko, sure. But short of mailing everyone in existence a new copy, you just can't do that in a trading card game.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been excited. I've now played 2 F&Ms in a row. And by technicalities and the kindness of my friends, have gone 3-1 in both.
Playing humans?
Playing Pure Steel Paladin, Hammer Time.
Hammer Time, okay.
Friday night at F&M, I lost to a black-white Grief Blade. And then when it came time for round 4, I was paired against a player that was 0-3 and looking to drop the event. And we got paired, and I got the pair down at 2-1. And he was getting ready to leave the event. And I said, "Oh, would you like to concede to me?" And he says, "Well, do you want to play?" And I said, "What's your record again?" And I said, "Would you like to concede to me?" And he did. And then we played the matches out, and Tasha's hideous laughter milled me out in two out of 3 games. Mr. Jason Clark killed me with mill in round 4 of F&M last week. Yeah.
That's insane.
Card is insane when your deck is all 0 drops and 1 drops. But the deck feels super strong. I could not beat Grief Blade doing things like, turn 1 Grief Ephemerate, upkeep Ephemerate.
Yeah, I mean, because essentially you are a combo deck, and like being able to strip combo pieces out of your hand.
Yeah.
Ugh, 3 of them. Ugh.
Yeah. In game 2, he changed up his tactic a little bit, like land go, Solitude, Malakir Rebirth the Solitude, exile my creatures, leave me with like 2. I had 2 lands and 3 artifacts, and then he played Kataki.
Oh.
So that was rough. Actually, what really killed me in that match was Stoneforge Mystic, activate Ephemerate with the trigger on the stack. Go get Cauldron Complete and put it in. Gross. Yeah.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Oh, I kind of rage scooped. Not gonna lie. I was like, okay, dude, you win. Yep, you got it.
I feel like I should have been there. That way you could have called Judge.
Yep.
So I could have came over, slapped him, and laughed at you.
Yeah, like, you shouldn't do this.
That's legal, but like, you're a dick, and you're fucked.
And I was so fucked. Oh, man.
Oh, that's so gross. That is... Ugh.
Well, the other thing that sucks about WotC focusing on the arena formats is it really doesn't impact the secondary market unless there's a deck on there that actually breaks out into Pioneer. Like, it doesn't have financial ramifications on the secondary market. But I did get to thinking about this week. So I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious with my finances in this upcoming year and a half. I have some personal goals, things around the house, things with my car, and thinking about where my safest speculation opportunities might be. And it got me thinking about Double Masters Take 2. And so I started looking at the cards from Double Masters 1 and how they did.
What do you find?
Well, I'm gonna share my screen, and I looked at the top 8 dollar value mythic reprints. It was Mana Crypt. Well, I was just going to say you probably see the screen so you can read them, but it was Mana Crypt, Force of Will, Double Seasoning. That sounds delicious. Maybe I shouldn't have skipped dinner and went for the whiskey.
Oh man.
Yeah, Sword of Feast and Famine, Chrome Mox, Sword of Fire and Ice, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Mox Opal. Now, for those of you that are following us on YouTube, you'll see also in this, I have two different areas. One is the 2X Master reprint, and then below that are what I found to be the most recent regular printing of that card before it. So for Mana Crypt, the last regular Mana Crypt that was a regular printing was Eternal Masters. At one point, that was $202. So you sort of see down here in that section where I've got, taking it off, EMA here, $202, because that was the price, the highest price that version had gotten to. But at the day of launch for 2X Masters, at that point, everything had been spoiled. Everybody knew it was in the set. The Mana Crypt was selling at launch for about $89. The EMA copy was down to $111. In the intervening time, from last August till now, the newer copy got down to $80. The older copy got down to $86. And then the current price for both, the new copy is $141 and the old copy is $138, looking at MTG stocks today. So the prices really tracked down together and really tracked right back up together, which was interesting. And I also see, coming from an all-time high of $202 to drop down to less than half of that, but then to come back at over half of that was really interesting information. Now, Mana Crypt is not a card we see in Modern. It's not a card we see in Standard or Pioneer. This is an EDH card. Vintage? Do they play it in Vintage?
I think some decks do, for sure.
I don't.
I mean, you still. I think it's restricted.
Yeah.
So I think you can just play one.
And right. And even if they do, who cares?
Your mud decks, whatever. Yeah, no one's actually playing Vintage.
Right.
And more important, no one's buying into Vintage.
So then I have all of these things where I figured out if you had bought it on the day that 2X Masters was launched and then sold it today, it'd be about a $52 profit. If you bought it when it was at its low, it's only $9 difference for this particular card. Right? So the difference between buying it at the day of launch and buying it a year and a half later is 14%. And the reason why that is interesting to me is I've had these conversations before where I buy a card when it's at high availability, but I also know I'm paying a premium price. Like, okay, this card might go down after I buy it, but I trust in the fact that a year from now, I'm going to look back and say I got a deal. So the next card on this list, Force of Will. On 8/7/20, when 2X Masters was legal on the street, that was down to $84. Also was reprinted at EMA. At one time had a high of $133. That version was still selling for $131 on this day. So you were talking about almost a $50 spread where you could buy the new Force of Will for almost $50 less. When the price finally came down because of all of the quantity that was released, the 2XM copy went down to 74 and the EMA copy went down to 76. Again, one didn't tank lower than the other. In almost all of these, I think, except for the doubling season, almost all of these should have the same art. They rebounded. The older copy of Force of Will is currently 106. The new copy is 103. If you had bought an older Force of Will on the day that 2XM came out, you would have lost $25. And if you had bought the new version on day of launch, you would have gained $20. It's kind of interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely. And to go back a little bit, I mean, something we talk about all the time is when you talk about, hey, I'm going to buy this card now, I might be able to get it cheaper in a week. Well, I might be able to save myself $5, or it could go up 20. Like,
yeah, or
if it's going to go up over time, like, we don't need a min-max here. We don't need to try to get every little cent out of a card. If you're making profit, you're making profit. And I definitely like how you said that. And it's interesting that on these reprints, and I think like Double Masters is obviously a good one to look at because we know we're coming out with
Double Masters 2,
which I don't know how the math works on that, but whatever it is. We know we're going to see another reprint heavy thing. Well, we just also saw this with Modern Horizons 2, where some of these reprinted cards are just so cheap. Mm-hmm. And the new versions, for whatever reason, are just so affordable. Yep. And obviously, we're looking at Mythics. We know the Mythics are going to go up. Like, they're pretty much guarantees unless they get printed into the ground. And in a set like Double Masters, you don't expect it to get printed in the ground. You're expecting like, oh, this is their chance to reprint it. So that's what we're seeing here. Yeah, like it's interesting. If you want the old ones, I guess you can go buy them. It's not a terrible time to go buy them. But if you just want the card, buying the newer copy is pretty sure deal.
Yeah. Coming back over, just because I spent a fair bit of time on this while I was just sort of like switching back and forth. Again, I used MTG stocks. They don't always have I would not say on any given day they have the most accurate sale price, but I think that they accurately track the rises and falls. So that's sort of why I also looked at what was the difference over time. If you had bought it on this day and sold it today, about how much profit would you have? If you had been able to buy it at the lowest possible price and sold it today, how much profit would you have made on an average card? So you can look here at this line where I have averages. The average price of these 8 mythics, if you were to just average them all out, was $54. They got down about $10, and they're up to $75. Right? So at launch, if you had bought them and flipped them now, you'd make about $21 a card. If you had bought them at low and sold them now, you'd average about $30 a card.
And that's crazy to me that, like, buying them at launch, you make money, knowing that in the short term, launch day is when they're going to be highest. Like, they're going to go down. Very few cards are going to go up during that first 2 weeks.
And so focusing on the high played mythics is sort of a safety net. Right. For mythics that are seeing play in formats. Now, all of these have, and I noted this in the top section, Mana Crypt has 3 regular printings and 4 premium printings.
That's crazy to me.
Force of Will.
It has more premium printings than regular printings.
And that's the same with Sword of Feast and Famine at this point, where that has 3 regular printings and 4 premium printings. So even this Mana Crypt, in that same set, there was a premium version.
Yes. Yeah, you had the box toppers, right?
Yeah. So you also had people that were fighting to get those at the time of launch. Over here on the right, for people that are watching on YouTube, if you had bought all 8 reprints at the average low price. So the best time to buy them, if you had caught them all at their low in this last year and a half, you could have made a 66% return in theory. You know, obviously there's transaction fees for buying and selling, shipping, whatever. But just sort of napkin math, it would have cost you $360 to buy a copy of all 8. And if you had sold them at what they're saying the market value is today, you get a $240 profit, 66.67% return. That's absurd. But to your point and what you were just saying, if you had just bought them all on the day that the set came out, it would have cost you more out of pocket, $431 instead of $360. You would have made less profit, $166 instead of $240, but that's still a 38.5% return. That's a ridiculous return on investment over this last year.
I don't expect you to know this, but I'm going to put you on the spot anyway. If I would have spent the same amount of money in Apple stock, any guess of what my percentage return would have been?
Apple stock, I think, did well. I think it did close to double-digit percentages, but I don't think it was over 15. The S&P 500 as a whole is down 4% year over year today. So, yes, Apple stock may have done better, but the market was super volatile this year. There are certainly also people that made mad bank on the whole, all of the Zoom to the moon, GameStonk, AMC, movie theater, like all of that stuff. Those are all outliers.
But I mean, I ask Apple because, I mean, you know Apple's going to make money, right? Like,
right.
You can feel pretty good. Like, that feels like a really safe bet. But 15% compared to 66? What?
And, I mean, obviously, if it were just this simple, there would probably be, well, and I guess a few years we had that jackass Martin Shkreli getting into MTG Finance. Like, there are people that have tried to put serious money into this stuff. But as somebody that plays the game, you can see, if you know that a card is a mythic reprint, that's played. If it was a $100 card to begin with, it doesn't go down to $50 and stay $50. It just doesn't. So let's talk about an interesting case. Jace the Mind Sculptor, at the time of launch, was $57. So you could basically pre-order them for $57.
So cheap.
Went down to $41.
So cheap.
It's currently $54.
That's still cheap.
So
like Jace just isn't as good as it used to be, but man, like,
it's hard to believe that it's that cheap.
That's wild to me.
So this actually was a drag on all the other numbers, because if you had bought it on launch, you would have lost $3 as of today. Whoop-de fucking do! If you wanted Jace the Mind Sculptors and you could have bought them the day that they came out, and you lost $3 over the last year and a half, and you got to play with those Jace the Mind Sculptors the whole time, you didn't take a beating.
Right. You're doing all right.
You're doing all right. Like, it's
and they're still trending up, right? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
You've lost $3 now, but you still have an investment in Jaces that are still going up, and you're gonna get your money back.
Now, looking at the Jace original printing, which here again was EMA, was the most recent sort of regular set reprint, that had peaked at 122 at one point.
Yep.
At launch was $77. Got down to 44 and is currently 60 for some reason. So that's them sort of normalizing. The newest printing's 54, the EMA is 60. if you had bought either copy of Jace at the low that they got down to, you'd be up $13 to $16 right now. And it's that effect of even this card, which is at a historic overall low, it just feels so cheap. You didn't lose anything on it. If you managed to get in on low.
Even if you got it in at release, like you still didn't do that bad.
No,
you did a little worse with the EMA printing.
Well, and that's it. So some of my more of my takeaways again here over on the right hand side. The best you could have done if you had gotten all 8 of the older printings at the post reprint average low is a 52% return. So, I mean, hey, that's awesome. That's sort of in between the 38% of the new reprints and the ridiculous 66% return if you had gotten them at low.
Yep.
But if you had bought the older copies at launch, you would have lost $15 right now. Again,
I think the other thing to kind of put out there is, even though like if you would have got them all at their low, you would have made 50%. Like, it's not really that simple. Like, I think you're lucky if you got all 8 of them. But if you decide to guess and choose what you wanted to buy, you easily could have lost there. Whereas if you're guessing and choosing from the new copies, I mean, unless you bought Jace and you lost $3, you got profit.
Yeah. Well, and so this is like a lesson that we could probably steal from the stock market, which is if you're actually doing this for any kind of speculation or profit, diversification. Yeah. Yes, if you had thought to yourself, I'm going to buy 20 Jace the Mind Sculptors, ouch. If you had, I'm not going to do the napkin math on this, but if you just say, I bought 20 Jace the Mind Sculptors at launch, I'd be down $60 today. But if you had bought 4 each of these 8 cards, you'd be way up. And so I part of this is just a fun mind game. Like over here on the right, I have this column that's percent change in profit from the low buy, which is saying, you know, this $9 difference between the low purchase and the launch purchase is 14%, 34%, 13%. You see this one that's 123%. It's like, oh, that's a big number. Well,
it's a big number.
It is a big number. That's because the prices are actually so the amount that minus $3 versus making $13 is a big difference. So if you had gotten it at low, you'd be doing okay right now. But on average, that return, that change in profit from getting it at low is about 40%. On the older printings, the variance there is like 100, almost 130%. And that's not good. This was a mental exercise. I'm going to bring us back to the main scene. And this is just a mental exercise in proving to myself something that I fundamentally assumed. And it's saying, you know, like, trust but verify. If you have an idea and you think to yourself, oh, these reprint mythics are going to be a good investment, or I'm not going to screw myself if I buy a set of the swords the next time the swords get reprinted. Like, you can go back and look at comparable statistics from comparable cards in comparable reprints. It's free real estate. And it makes me look forward to what this double bubble, 2x Masters 2 squared. Like, I'm excited. What are they going to put in that? Is that where we're going to see Ren and 6?
I hope so. I really hope so. I think it's way too early for Ragavan, but Ren 6 could fit into this one.
Right. And is it... People keep texting me, man. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. Is it too soon for Ragavan if that's coming out in the middle of 2022? I think that we're probably right in that whole set has been determined.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Mox Opal will ever come off the ban list?
I don't think so. And I think there's a lot of cards on the ban list that could come off. I think our power level that has changed tells us that all these cards that were way too strong are no longer way too strong. However, I think Wizards is going to have a hard time taking cards off the ban list, specifically ones that they have put on, especially ones that they've put on within the last couple of years. I think they have a lot easier time looking at cards that were put on the ban list at the format creation, something like a Stoneforge Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be hard for them to say, we banned this card. Now 2 or 3 or 4 years later, we go, well, it's not that good anymore. You can have it back.
Yep. Although I'm sure there are a lot of people right now that are griping about the Stoneforge decks. But nobody's bitching about Jace the Mind Sculptor.
No.
So it makes me wonder, maybe a year ago Mike and I got really hyped up. We were like, oh, they're gonna unban Splinter Twin.
Yeah, I remember that.
I still think that that's as likely as anything.
Yeah, no, I think Splinter Twin and Birthing Pod are on the same side. I don't think either one actually does get reprinted. I think part of that comes from some of the cards that you have seen printed, kind of point towards, guys, we're trying to make Splinter Twin a thing again, but we don't want it to be actually Splinter Twin. We're giving you like 5 mana options to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't see it happening, but like power level wise, like I think it'd be totally fine. Like I don't know how many decks right now you're able to just cast a 4-drop on your main phase on turn 4. Like Force Negation is a huge stopper in all of those situations, but also like, I mean, just decks hit you so much quicker when you get hit with a Ragavan on your turn 1, essentially, before you get to untap on your turn 2. Like I don't care how good your Splinter Twin is, like you're already on the back burner here.
Yep. Yep. I don't know. I'm definitely looking this week to, like I was saying, I'm making some other financial decisions in the near future. I also had an incident with my front bumper and a porcupine.
Oh.
That is going to have me going through the process of offloading some cardboard crack. So I'll have probably some interesting tales to regale the next time we get together. Is there anything? Did you have any Snap This Ups this week?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things interesting right now. Of course, we always talk about Modern, but I think Modern's your best place to look at for card prices right now, at least long term. I think Standard, you definitely have some things there, but
what are we talking about?
Modern's your better place. So a couple new decks that are coming out. Brad kind of told me about one that's a blue-white control deck playing a bunch of rule of law effects, but it's also playing a card called Moderation. Originally I picked this card up for EDH because card is really good, and especially in a control shell where, I mean, really you only want to play one spell on your turn anyway. Like half the time you don't even want to play any, and you want to just be able to play one counter spell on their turn. Well, Moderation lets you draw a card every time you do that, so you're always going to have fuel.
Yep.
Cool. And then if you're playing rule of law effects with it, like it's almost like you're playing T3 Fairy in that your counter spells are always going to hit because they can't play any other spells.
They can't counter. Yeah, they can't respond.
but moderation's like a 6 cent card. This is real cheap. Now, I don't think it's ever going to get expensive, but I think I think it could be a $1 to $2 card. So I mean, I would definitely pick up.
It's a Modern Horizons
some copies
rare.
now for sure.
Yeah. Just on that fact alone, it's a Modern Horizons rare that somebody is playing with at less than 10 cents a card.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. Absolutely.
Nothing else. Go get your copies.
What is this computer doing to me?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I actually want to I have this deck list up. Another friend of ours mentioned this deck to me. The moderation control, a couple of rule of laws, 4 moderation, 4 Archon of Emeria, controlling when and how many spells each player can cast. Archon of Emeria, slowing them down. 2 5-mana Teferi, 2 3-mana Teferi, some prismatic endings, some supreme verdicts, Archmage's Charm, Counterspell, Cryptic Command, Faithful Mending. Woof. Sweet card to have sitting in your graveyard when you can only cast 1 spell a turn and your opponent can't do anything. Also the life gain. A lot of people are messing around with this card right now. Actually, I don't know what is Faithful Mending selling for right now.
I can't imagine it's a ton. I think I would guess it's around $2-3.
Yeah, I think this is another $5 uncommon easy.
Yep.
Yeah. $1.40. It's the cheapest copy on TCG right now. You can get, looking at 4 or more, Versus Game San Francisco has 167 of them for $1.60.
You get literally as many as you want for $160.
Yeah. I like that card a lot. And this kind of deck, even though I was shitting on control players earlier, looks fun. Like this deck probably wins with Hall of Storm Giants more than anything else. All right, what else you got?
And the coolest thing about Hall of Storm Giants is just like in a deck like that, doesn't count as costing a card.
Nope.
And having something to sink your mana into is pretty nice. The other card I had, and this is something every time Aspiring Spike puts out a list, like I think you always have to pay attention to it. Whether it's good or not, like it does not matter. If Aspiring Spike has success with it, it's at least going to get picked up. It's at least going to get tried, at least on Arena, or not on Arena, on Moto.
On Moto, like, yeah.
You might not see it get a ton of play in paper, but like at least you're going to see it in an Arena. And he's playing blue-white combo deck with, can't think of what the card's called, but it's the suspend card for white, the 0-mana suspend card that says bring back all your enchantments.
Yeah, what is that card?
Yeah. Resurgent Belief. There we go. I was thinking Resurgent Ultimatum. That's totally different.
Resurgent Belief. Well, and this is definitely a card that is powerful. You're talking about a replenish that you can suspend on turn 2 that casts on turn 4. Again, a rare from Modern Horizons 2. This one's less than 50 cents. You can get as many of them as you want, basically, for 50 cents.
And as long as it's seeing play, which it is, it's going up.
Well, and I think that this is a no-brainer in any kind of enchantment EDH deck. And then what's the, why can I not think of that? 3-drop blue enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a counter on it, and you can cast spells, 1 spell per turn, equal or less than to the number of counters on it.
Yeah, good luck. I can't come up with that card either. I've been trying to think of that. I've been looking for it. It's played in all the Cascade decks.
Where are our friends in the chat? Did our friends in the chat leave? I can't see YouTube.
So they haven't said anything since Ephemerate Grief is gross.
Well, at least they left on a high note.
Right? Yeah, I can't think of what card that is. We all know what it is, though. I mean, it was played in the early Rhinos before we cascaded into all of our cards. We played that, or we played Electro Dominance into Rhinos, like those kind of things. Restore Balance, all those cards.
Anything else that you're interested in picking up right now, or suggesting that people consider?
So I've gotten pretty much everything that I've really wanted. I've talked about a bunch of stuff lately. Of course, lands. I think getting lands before people figure out they're good and they cost a lot more is a big deal. Even though you might have kind of missed your chance, I think the Triumphs might still be a good buy. I don't know when they're going to get a chance to reprint those.
I think in that new Capenna set, we're going to see at least the rest of the Triumphs, because that's a multicolor set.
Okay.
My actual first snap this up is also a land, but it's not that far out of the norm. My first snap this up this week is Verdant Catacomb.
So what's that at right now?
You can get a play set of Verdant Catacombs for $100.
You kidding me?
Right, and that's it. So if I look at MTG stocks and we look at what the price of Verdant Catacombs was before the reprint, Verdant Catacomb. We have this nice price graph coming up, and you can see it goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. Every time it gets a reprint, it goes down. But every other time, basically, it's approaching $70.
Yeah. That's a fetch land.
Like, it's a fetch land. Historically, it's been closer to 70. You know, it's spent more time above 50 than it has below, for sure. And there may be a shitload of them out there right now because Modern Horizons 2 was heavily printed and heavily purchased. And there's full art versions, and there's old border versions, and there's old border fuzzy versions. But if you can get a playset of the black-green fetch lands, that's going to get you through so many decks in Modern. And useful in EDH, obviously. I think it's absurd that a lot of these fetch lands on TCG Player right now, Marsh Flats, you could get a playset for $75. Arid Mesa, you could get a playset for $60. Scalding Tarns, you can get a playset for $120. If you don't have your fetch lands and you want to be a modern Magic the Gathering player, there's not a better time from now until the next time they get reprinted.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. We all expected them to jump up a lot quicker than they have, but it seems like they just have continued to go down.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to what we were talking about in the other section, talking about 2X Masters. So here's the graph right now for the Modern Horizons 2 version of Verdant Catacombs. And it has gone down. You know, it hit a low of 26, back up to 30, back down to 26, 27. And now we're at this point where they're sub $25. This can't last too long.
No.
It just literally can't. And so if we let's look at what has the full art one done. Again, that has also leveled off at $28. I mean, maybe the full art's the way to go. But a playset for $100 has such a nice ring to it. For a card that I'm not telling you to spec on, but to buy to play, you know, buy what's in your budget. Here's the old borders. They're also leveled off at $45. Those do look pretty sweet. I can't lie about that.
Yeah.
But you can't get a Modern Masters 2017 copy this cheap. Oh yeah, they're down to $25 now.
The old border ones are 25.
Sorry, no. Looking at the Modern Masters reprint, which again has spent more of its life over $50 than under, is down to 25.
Wow.
It's a good time to get into Modern. I've the person that told me about that moderation control list was saying, this is one of his most favorite Modern formats ever. He's been having so much fun playing Modern that it's crazy. My last two FNMs, other than feeling totally helpless in that Stoneblade, that Griefblade deck, other than that, I had a bunch of fun playing Magic the last few weeks.
That's what it comes down to.
I've heard more people talking about Worlds. Worlds got like 50K viewers at one point, or nearly 50K viewers. People are itching for coverage. They're itching for competitive play. We had it on in the house here this weekend while playing EDH. In a couple of weeks, Halloween weekend, SCG is having their invitational. A few weeks after that, we've got Vegas, and I have heard that they are officially not doing any coverage for that, but I think that we'll have the sort of guerrilla Twitter coverage people in the hall and people reporting what decks they're seeing, blah, blah, blah. I'm certain that we'll see the tournament results after. That drives hype. That makes people want to play.
And the cards that get played are gonna jump, because this will be one of the first times that, hey, it's time to finally buy cards because we can finally play again.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thank you for hanging out again for our tri-weekly podcast.
Hey, it wasn't Chinese food, but it was still fun.
Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Woo! That was a terrible sneeze.
Oh, bless you.
Andy, send them out.
Well, anyway, appreciate everyone watching. All the stuff. Remember to like, subscribe. Do give us a comment for the algorithm. And yeah, we'll see you in an upcoming week.
in an unspecified upcoming week.
Upcoming unspecified week. My name's Andy. I'm with Brad, and you have been watching the SnapCast podcast.
We'll talk to you soon.